Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
Brought to you by GlanviaConnect.com.
Hello and welcome to Farmview. Well, as usual, it's Kieran O'Connor here with your weekly farming programme. And once again, I have a very busy show for you. This week, on this week's programme, I'll have an update on Stephen Fitzgerald's open source future farm in West Waterford. I'll also discuss on Taisce's High Court appeal to a new 140 million cheese plant at Belview in Waterford Port. And plus we hear about Lismore and Tremore's farmer market's very successful reopening.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanviaConnect.com, Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Well, the Open Source Future Farm programme has been an outstanding success, taking over from the very successful Monitor Farm project. Organised by Taisce and Glanvia, the Future Farm focus open source farms have been an outstanding success, as I say, and in Waterford we're fortunate to have two, in East Waterford in Portlaw, Shane Fitzgerald, and in West Waterford, Stephen Fitzgerald of Aglish. Well, early in the week I got a chance to talk to Stephen and asked him for an update on how well the Open Source Future Farm in Aglish has gone for him. Stephen, first of all, the Future Farm, you got involved, was it 2 years ago you got involved in this open source future farm? Obviously last year difficult with everybody with COVID, but it was 2 years ago you got set up as an open source future farmer.
Yeah, that's right. We joined 2 years ago, not a whole pile done last year over COVID, but glad to be involved in it, exciting to be involved in it.
Obviously you run a family farm, yourself and your dad and your mum Noreen there out in Aglish. How well has it gone for you, and what are the benefits that you found as being part of the open source future farm programme?
I came home farming full time a few years ago, and it's been good because it's helped us kind of forge our path and figure out where we're going. Because there's two families involved in the farm now as such, and plan out where we're going in the future and just adopt all the new trends and the new technologies and improve the farm going forward. It's been good to be involved, get the best research and advice. And
obviously the fact that both Taisce and Glanvia are jointly involved, the expertise you have there from Richie O'Brien and the Glanvia team as well, obviously that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, it is. Like we were all going power our local advisor. He's been brilliant, but add in Richie O'Brien then on top of it, like we can't put a foot wrong, and we've good help. And you know, it's brilliant to get advice because you always have backup, and you can't be afraid to make a decision then, and you have people there backing up what we're being told to do.
And of course, normally you would have an open day on the farm. And last year, because of that, I know you have an upcoming event with Macra in a few weeks' time. But as regards this spring, how was it on the Fitzgerald farm in Aglish? How was it for you?
Busy, but like every dairy farm, springtime is busy. Kevin went well. Weather wasn't exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. It was just good. Cows were out nearly every day. Kevin went well, and we're just starting the breeding season now. Grass growth has been average all year. It's been just tipping along just enough, and hopefully now this week the weather will turn around and we might start heading into summer and things might settle down. But as regards springtime, yes, it did go well. We're happy with how the springtime went, yeah.
As you say, calving, a very busy time. How did calving go for you? How compact was it, and were you happy with the overall result?
Yeah, good. You'd be dreading it at times. It's very compact. Calved kind of over 90% of the cows in the first 6 weeks, and at times you'd be wondering why you do it, but it's worth it when all the calves are the same age, and it's easier to manage it in the long run. You're busy for them few weeks, and it's easier for everything for the rest of the year.
And turnout then, when did you actually turn out your animals?
Cows start generally going out by day as soon as the calf. So from the first week of February out, we had cows out nearly every day since the first few days of February. If the weather is very bad, we don't, but we try and have the cows out as much as possible. And we're in a reasonably dry farm, so we're able to do it, which we're very lucky. And the cows perform better on it, and it's easier for us to manage that.
And of course, it's yourself and your dad Richie, and you mentioned before we come on air that you also have some local help as well.
Yeah, next door neighbour Tom Fleming, he came in now the springtime, and he's been helping milking, and he was here during calving for a few weeks, and any day I'm under pressure now, he comes in and I spread a bit of fertiliser, he's helping. It's brilliant to have extra help around. It makes the job a lot easier.
Obviously, part and parcel of farming now is the whole environmental area and the whole greening of agriculture, and indeed common agricultural policy very geared towards that, between slurry spreading, biodiversity, water quality, protected urea. How are you in all those areas, or what steps have you taken across those key areas?
We're okay. We started using protected urea and trail and shoe and all those things the last 2 years. It's all new to it, but so far so good. There's huge pressure from outside the farm gate on the environment and the impact farming has on the environment. We're not afraid to try these new things, and they have been working for us the last couple of years. So positive from our point of view. Like, as long as it doesn't affect the farm financially and we're able to contribute to the bigger picture, I'm happy to do all these things.
Of course, the slurry spraying, the shoe trail, really, that's been revolutionary. Saw it firsthand in Moore Park a good few years ago, but definitely, and I'm sure neighbours are very happy as well as about the benefit it has for the soil and environment as well.
Definitely. Like, only when you start using the trail shoe and to protect all these small things, you realise it actually does work and it's a benefit, it's a huge benefit. You know, you try new things lots of times, one of the slow to try new things, but once you and it works, you're happy to use it in the future. You mentioned yourself and your dad Richie are involved, and of course your mum Noreen there as well. As regards the is it a partnership scenario? How well have you sorted that side of things out? It was a partnership for the first couple of years. Dad is at retirement age, he's stepping back and I'm taking over more the day-to-day running of it and things like that, but it's still very much a family farm. Dad looks after the calves and we look after the cows and we help each other out, and you know, it's just good to all part for this. Good to hear. Then as regards over the last number of years, expansion mode, have you come to where you wanted to be, or what type of numbers have you grown to since you got involved the last 3 or 4 years? We always had a traditional in our area kind of 40-50 cow herd, and we knew that wasn't enough to support two families going forward, so we took on a land around us, rented and bought, and we're at kind of 160 cows at the moment, and the plan was to go a small bit more, but with the recent campaign news and things like that, our plans have been kind of changed and halted, which is disappointing, but we'll certainly wait and see how that goes and make a plan that suits our farm going forward. You know? Obviously, the whole Belview on Taisce and the appeal against the High Court decision for the plant there is a big blow to everyone, and particularly like yourselves on the ground who was organised to expand, and unfortunately now a bit of a hold on that. But overall, the spring has been good to you. As regards COVID over the last year, how different was it on the Fitzgerald farm, and how well did milk collection work, and indeed vets in now the yard, and overall the handling of COVID on farm? Touch wood, it was no problem at all. Everybody made their small bit of an effort. Like, the farm still had to run day to day. There's no issues, milk collection, feed deliveries, anything. Everybody done their bit, and touch wood, there was no issues at all. And it seemed to, like, we're lucky in the local area, there was no real outbreak of COVID and things like that. We didn't have to do too much, but as long as everybody minded themselves, there's no major issue. Well, listen, well done to you and all the suppliers and all the truck drivers and tanker drivers and everybody involved in plants, that the whole milk collection ran so smoothly and COVID free. Finally, before I let you go, silage just around the corner. When are you hoping to cut, or what's the kind of dream date for the Fitzgerald farm as regards cutting first cut silage? Traditionally, big kind of you'd be aiming for the 28th of May, try to get good quality. It's all been great, fertilisers out and things like that, but over the poor growth of the last few weeks, that might be delayed a few days. We'll learn to wait and see when time comes. Next 2 or 3 weeks, it'll fill up a lot. And look, it'll be late last few days of May, early few days of June, and wait and see. The weather will dictate a lot of that. Fingers crossed, as you saw, the end of May. Stephen Fitzgerald, Open Source Future Farmer from Aggie. Stephen, thanks for taking our call. Well done on the Open Source Future Farm. We look forward to having a proper open day out in time. I know Mocker are going there in a few weeks, but we look forward to a big open day in the future. Stephen Fitzgerald, thanks for taking our call. Concerns are mounting for Glanbia suppliers that planned peak milk restrictions could be extended further in the wake of Taisce's decision to launch another appeal against a planned new cheese processing facility in Waterford Port at Belview. And to discuss this, we're joined by a man who was outspoken on this earlier in the week, and that's Waterford Senator John Cummins. John, welcome to our programme.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
John, as I said, concerns are mounting, particularly for Glanbia suppliers and Glanbia as a company as well, but you felt it necessary to come out and be outspoken early in the week along with some of your Fine Gael colleagues.
Yes, we issued a statement on this last weekend, myself and 5 other Oireachtas members from Fine Gael across the region, and I suppose we did so because we believe in rural Ireland and we believe in the ability of farm families to be able to make a decent living. And this is about decision by Taisce, which is going to have far-reaching consequences for farm families across Waterford and the southeast region. And I think at a time when we have 500,000 people in receipt of the pandemic unemployment payment, that it's absolutely indefensible that a project that's going to create 500 construction jobs and up to 100 full-time roles on completion and support thousands of farm families' incomes across the southeast is being held up in the court system by Taisce. I just think it's absolutely indefensible, and I've been inundated with people contacting me all week in relation to this.
Now, Taisce are appealing a High Court decision, as I mentioned in the intro, dismissing his challenge against the decision of Bord Pleanála to grant the planning permission of the 140 million cheese plant. Now, some on the outside might say elected members shouldn't be getting involved in this whole process, leave it to Taisce and leave it to the legal structure to sort this one out?
Yeah, well, look, I have no vested interest in this project whatsoever, but, I am an elected representative who lives in a county that has a large number of dairy farmers, and many of them, particularly younger ones who have taken over farm holdings, which is something that we're trying to encourage. They've invested heavily on the back of this plant, and they're already facing restrictions on supplies from next year as a result of what is already a 2-year delay to the process. And, I just think it's unjustified, it's indefensible, and it's an attack on rural Ireland. And I believe that An Taisce have had their day in court. This has been determined already by Kilkenny County Council. It's been appealed to An Bord Pleanála, who found in favour of Kilkenny, and then they sought a judicial review to the High Court, taking An Bord Pleanála's decision, and the court found in favour of An Bord Pleanála. So, this has already been determined, and I think An Taisce should accept the decision of the Independent Planning Authority of Kilkenny, of An Bord Pleanála, and of the High Court.
Now, John, as regards An Taisce, to a lot of people on the outside, who's involved in An Taisce, who funds An Taisce, and who actually is involved in An Taisce? Who are An Taisce, basically?
Well, An Taisce is a prescribed body under the Planning Act. So local authorities are obliged to consult with them in relation to planning matters. In relation to their constitution, I'm not familiar with who sits on it, but I think they do have a role. But at the same time, if something is after being adjudicated on by an independent body like An Bord Pleanála, they have sought judicial review and have gone to the High Court in relation to it, and that has been thrown out by the High Court and found in favour of. So there has to come a time when you call a stop to this, and I had hoped that common sense would prevail on this, but clearly it's not. And I know the Taisce has come out now and asked on Taisce to reconsider this decision, just like we done earlier in the week, and I certainly hope that common sense will prevail on this.
And John, in fairness to An Taisce, their statement says that the High Court judgment in detail believes it raises points of exceptional importance which should be appealed in the public interest. So what's their main area of concerns from what you can decipher?
They do have concerns in relation to environmental impacts of increased production in terms of milk production. But, it has to be said that, that milk is already there. It's being produced, and, if it's not being processed in this plant, it's going to go to another plant, and we have to look at the consequences of transporting large volumes of milk around the country. And, I think farm families and farmers right across this region, they've been working hard all of the time over the last number of years in order to, improve their environmental sustainability. But with environmental sustainability has to come economic sustainability. And as a politician, we're very aware of the word balance. And it appears An Taisce are not willing to find that compromise. They're not willing to sit down with stakeholders and find that compromise, and I think that's very disappointing, and I would call on them to sit down with the stakeholders, sit down with Glanbia, sit down with the IFA, and let's hear the issues, let's talk them out. And in my experience, if you go into a meeting with no preconditions and you sit down, you can always find a compromise.
Senator John Cummins, as always. John, thanks for taking the call. I'm sure we'll hear much more of this over the next few weeks, but thanks for taking our call.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.
And you're welcome back to part 2 of Farmview. Now let's have a look at some items from our farming calendar. Great to see a busy farming calendar back on our weekly farming programme. Livestock Mart's weekly online sales continue this Saturday morning at Waterford Ross Mart in New Ross. Cattle sales from 9:30, calf sales from 10. While on Monday, Dungarvan Mart's cattle sale from 11 o'clock every Monday morning, of course, at Dungarvan Mart from 11 o'clock. And don't forget, the very successful calf sales continue every Thursday from 12 noon, with all sales now live online at livestocklive.com. Turning to our farmer markets and country markets this Saturday morning, Waterford Farmers Market, John Roberts Square, also of course Tramore Farmers Market in Priest Road, and Strawberry Farmers Market every Saturday morning from 10 until 1. Sunday, Lismore Farmers Market, Castle Avenue from 10 until 4, and of course the Ardmore Farmers Market will be reopening, and good to hear as reopening at the end of May. Thursday, Dungarvan Farmers Market, Grattan Square from 9 until 2. Friday mornings, Margot Slater was on to remind us that Dungarvan country markets are up and running every Friday at the Scouts tent from 9 until 1, while while Waterford Farmers Market in St Olave's Hall continue every Friday, also from 9 until 1. Now, Shane was on from Waterford Market to remind us that Waterford Market's next weekly farm walk will take place on Thursday next, the 20th of May, on the farm of Shane Fitzgerald, the open source farmer, indeed a guest on this week's programme. The walk will take place at 7:30 with a maximum of 15 on Thursday next. And to register, and you must register, you can contact Waterford Market's Instagram or Facebook page.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com, Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Well, one farmers market back up and running, of course, is the Tramore Farmers Market. Indeed, one man very much involved at the Tramore Farmers Market, and of course also involved at the Dungarvan Farmers Market, is David Kiley of the Cumra Mountain Farm. First of all, David, you must be thrilled with how the farmer markets have reopened, not only in Dungarvan but in Tramore as well, and blooming again.
Yeah, it's a great outlet for people that they just need to be outside, and that's what we're told, to just think outside and all this. So it's really after motivating people in Tramore just to be outside and to actually trying to get involved in selling their hobbies or crafts, or in my case we're very passionate to vegetables and growing poultry as well.
So what time are you in Tramore? Saturdays in Tramore?
Tramore just really kicks off from 8 o'clock in the morning, and then it kind of runs up to 1 o'clock in the daytime, every Saturday.
You might tell our listeners what you have to offer from the Cumra farm. We spoke to your wife Chloe in the past, I know, about the poultry, but you might give a broad outline of what you're involved in.
Yeah, well, we rear poultry, as in chickens and ducks, all year long.
Free range?
Free range, yeah. They're more free range than what is called in a lot of places. But we also have our lovely mixed salad leaves, and we also have our own spinach, and we have our own spring onions coming along with our own garlic. Later on, tomatoes, courgettes, cucumbers, and your seasonal vegetables.
And do you find it's ongoing, or is it very much peak and valley? Are you constantly able to have a good display at the farmer market, beating Dungarvan or indeed Tramore on the Saturday?
Oh no, it's just it's like everything. You have to have a good effort and just put your best foot forward every day.
David, it was a huge move for you getting involved in this area. Chloe arrived on the scene. Had you always in your head to do this, or was it your good wife Chloe give you the inspiration?
I think it was something that kind of grew out organically between us. Just one thing kind of led into the next, and we kind of complemented each other in a lot of things. That's
David,
what happened with the market.
Lockdown for you, like all business, how did it affect the Cumra Mountain Farm?
Oh well, we initially got very busy in the first lockdown, and then it kind of spaced itself out over the last year. So we're glad to say that we actually have a nice, good customer base, and we're building on it, and hopefully just quality is what we like to give out. And
do you find you have a lot of repeat customers both in Dungarvan and in Tramore? Do you have repeat customers week on week?
Always repeat customers there, so it's great to see the support we get from the locals. And
well, David, yourself and Chloe, you've blazed a trail as such. You're based up in Kilbrine, but my God, the range of products that you produce on your farm, available, as we say, Saturday in Tramore, every Thursday in Grattan Square.
That's it, Kieran.
David, best luck to yourself in the future. Thanks. Well, a few weeks ago on our farming programme, we spoke how the Dungarvan Farmers Market had reopened successfully. Indeed, farmer markets and indeed country markets right around the city and county. Well, one market which has really hit the ground running since it reopened is the Sunday market, every Sunday at Lismore Farmers Market in the Castle Avenue, Lismore. Simon Fraser, as coordinator of the event in Lismore, you must be thrilled away how successful the reopening has been for Lismore.
Yeah, we're absolutely delighted, Kieran. We could realistically have opened back in March if it wasn't for COVID, and I'd say we've been just as busy. People are really keen to have somewhere to go, and obviously being in the castle grounds on a Sunday is a bonus because there's the gardens there, but the market itself is thriving. Myself and Helen Fitzgerald, she's great help, organises everything behind the scenes. Basically, we've got a great mixture of food and Irish crafts. It's become an event basically every week. People want somewhere to go and they're loving it.
Now, Simon, you're involved in the farmers market as coordinator in Dungarvan on Thursday and up in Lismore on a Sunday. For producers like yourself, and you're very much involved in the plants and shrubs, farmers markets are a lifeline for you.
They are. I mean, I make my living from them. Everybody here, everyone in Lismore, whether they be kind of weekend traders or it's part of their living, is very happy with it. It's an alternative to, shopkeeping. It's an open air thing. It's really something of the future that's always been there in the past.
Now, you mentioned Lismore. You've over 20 stalls every Sunday in Lismore. Great variety. But the Castle Avenue, what a setting, and of course you have the gardens as well, so people can make it a Sunday afternoon treat.
Well, they do. We have people coming down from Dublin, we have people coming from all over the country. People will come down They'll have lunch in the town. They'll buy plants. They'll go to the Castle Avenue. It's basically a day out.
So Simon, what would you say to people who haven't been to the Lismore Farmers Market on a Sunday?
Get down there. Get down there. Come and have some fun.
Listen, best of luck. Good.
All right, Kieran. Thank you.
Well, before I go on the racing front, we had a good week again for local Waterford connections. Cross Channel, Dungarvan with wins for Dungarvan trainer Dennis Coakley at Bath, and Dungarvan jock Niall Houlihan, who's having a brilliant season with yet another winner at Plumpton. While at Killarney back home, we'd wins for Kappa trainer and jockey Declan Queally, Colligan owner breeder Michael Tobin, and Tramore owner trainer John Halley. While at Statman again, Knockeen Butlerstown trainer saddled yet another fine double at Killarney also this week. So that's it for all of this week's programme. So once again, my thanks to Sean and Ollie for all their help in putting this week's programme together. So from myself, Kieran O'Connor, stay safe, keep up the protocol, and hopefully I'll have your company again same time next week.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.